is Maya Sybil. I am a reporter and content producer at insuranceinvestor.com. And today I am joined by Robin Ellison, chairman of the Cambridge College's Federated Pension Scheme. Hi, Robin. It is wonderful to have you here today.
Good morning, Maya. It's very kind of you to invite me. Delighted to be with you.
Yes, and Robin will be speaking on day 2 of Private Markets Investor Europe 2023 in London on the 29th of March. And he is giving the post-lunch keynote presentation titled Issues for DC, that's defined contribution schemes when investing in private markets. So Robin, I'm just going to go ahead and dive straight into the questions right now. And our first one is, can you briefly explain some of the main issues for DC schemes in private markets at the moment?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything very new in all this. People have been agonizing about this for several years. But just to summarize, the problem with DC schemes, as the government has found out, is that the values are reflected daily in the pricing. And members who are less sophisticated in understanding how these markets work will become dismayed if they don't get daily pricing or if they see the pricing fall at any one time. And of course, private equity has a problem with pricing on a daily basis. This just doesn't do it. And secondly of all, it's less transparent. So the government is obsessed with fee charging in pension schemes. Private equity necessarily has to charge more than the minimum that's allowed under the current arrangements, and that's a kind of disincentive for pension funds to look at private equity. So that and a few other kind of stories in the press about how evil the private equity guys are, and some of them are, but most of them aren't, has kind of frightened the horses, and we need to find a way around those challenges.
Wonderful. I mean, and as the popularity just in general of private markets grows, are there certain issues that are becoming more pressing in your opinion?
Yeah, I think the first is a regulatory issue, what to do with the pricing of overhead expenses. And the regulatory model, first of all, the view generally, I think, in the industry is the regulators should keep well out of this, but they're in it, so we have to accept that. But it's been designed for public markets and for bonds, and it's not been designed for private equity. And the government, with a different hat on, the business department of the government, is very keen to see pension funds, including DC funds, or in particular DC funds, as they expand as DB contracts, to get involved in projects which are not necessarily available on the public market, so infrastructure, for example, or schools or health or whatever. These are much more available in the private sector, and the charging arrangements just kind of at the moment makes it illegal. So there's a dilemma there. And the second thing for DC is in relation to making available the information to members. A lot of members really don't care what's in their DC scheme. They just kind of get on with it, and hopefully at the end of the period they'll have enough to retire on. But some do care, and for them the transparency problem of private equity is a dilemma.
I mean, and are there any solutions that are being offered currently?
Yes, I think there's a lot of discussion in the press, including the FT, about whether you can have a quoted vehicle for private equity. Which in a way is a contradiction in terms, but it makes sense for the pensions industry and also for private individuals. And ETFs aren't quite there yet, but they might be one day. So I think the market is exploring as hard as it can, as well as the government, who are kind of rethinking the regulatory framework very badly. Unfortunately, their thinking isn't very clear, but at least they're kind of on the job. And with a lick and a prayer over the next year or two, private equity will find a happier home in the DC pension movement.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's great. I mean, obviously, we are now in February, but over the course of 2023 and as things progress, what are some of the expected trends that we can see perhaps in this area starting to grow?
Yeah, well, there's obviously more interest in private equity because historically, until very recently, the public markets haven't done very well by DC schemes.
Yeah.
Bonds have been very badly hit for reasons we all know about, and the public stock markets have taken a bit of a tumble because of the increase in interest rates as well. So people have been looking for alternatives, showing a better return, showing better safety, showing lower risk, all that kind of stuff, and diversification. And private equity is an obvious way to go. The dilemma for trustees who are running these schemes on behalf of members is that the parameters aren't clear. and they're very worried about their private exposure. If you look at the States, for example, there's been a flurry, or in fact an avalanche of litigation against trustees who've been investing in things that aren't quoted. It's a dilemma. Litigation in the UK is much less of a threat, but it's still there. And trustees are slightly apprehensive about going down a route which they're not sure, A, the pensions regulator, and B, the judges in the High Court will be very sympathetic to. So I think if we can overcome those challenges, private equity will be much more attractive to the sector as a basis for improved return. I mean, it's absurd to have returns in the last few years which have been negative for pension funds. Why on earth would you put money into a pension scheme if you're going to lose money on it? So the thing that private equity does offer is, in theory, at least anyway, a higher return. And in practice, it's done pretty well over the last 20 years. So there's no reason why that should not continue.
Wonderful. That's perfect. Thank you, Robin, for your insights. And we really look forward to hearing you speak. As previously mentioned, Robin will be speaking on day 2 of Private Markets Investor Europe 2023, which is on in London on the 29th of March. And he's going to be giving the post-lunch keynote presentation on issues for defined contribution schemes when investing in private markets. And if you would like to find out more about the event, you can go to europe.privatemarketsinvestor.com. And thank you again, Robin.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Maya.